Hello, beautiful stars. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, hit that like and that subscribe button. Lots, and I mean lots of things that you can gain from being on my channel, following my journey, the many journeys that I am on, from spiritual to health, and just becoming like a grander, greater version of myself. So today is a new segment of Mirror Talk. So this question, and I do have a few other episodes that I will be working on, but today's episode is going to be a question from Tanya, and she asked, how did I heal, forgive my parents, or forgive my parents? Let me double check and make sure that's the right question. And that's how she asked. So I want to make sure that's how she asked. Yeah. She asked, how were you able to heal and forgive your parents? So that is a very, very, very good question. So thank you for asking. But first, if you have any questions or want to make a video inquiry, definitely check out the information in the description box down below. So I am 26 years old, and I think, as far as I can remember, which is about age 5, I can remember not liking my family, not liking my parents, because I felt like they were treating me wrong. I felt like they mistreated me in a lot of ways. I am the black sheep of my family, and I felt like that as well. And so growing up for me was very hard and very difficult. I was a very sensitive child, and I was very playful and goofy and very energetic, and rarely do I ever remember being serious. Like, I would have preferred, like any child, I would have preferred to play all day. But the way I grew up, I ended up having to be the one to take on the role as the parent of the home. I had to take on the responsibilities that should have been my mother's or my father's. I had to help raise and take care of my younger sisters, and I wasn't old enough to really take care of myself. So I had to mature faster, and I had to grow up faster. And so my childhood was pretty much spent being a parent. So you could say I've been a parent my whole life, pretty much, from the time I was 11 to the time, I guess, I never stopped, because when I was able to be on my own, I ended up being pregnant at 18, and from then on, the responsibilities of being a parent stayed there. And so a lot of the decisions that I felt regret to, that I've made in my life, I blamed my parents for that turning out the way that happened, and I blame them for my life as an adult even being the way it is, because I felt like had they done their part, then I wouldn't be like this, and then my life wouldn't be like that. And it got to a point where I was just on this repeated cycle, like I would get to a certain point in my life, and then it would go downhill, and I would be like, well, this would have never happened had Mom did this, or had my dad did this in the first place. And it got to a point where I felt called to pretty much take my life into my own hands, and pretty much put on my big girl panties and let myself hear the hard truth of, no, that happened because you weren't responsible and you didn't do what you were supposed to do. It's not your mother's fault that you did this, and it's not your dad's fault that you chose that. You know what I'm saying? It got to a point where I understood that it's either take responsibility of my own life or continue to be this victim. And I was finally at a point where I was ready to take my life into my own hands. So there is going to come a point in everybody's life, and before I say that, there was a video that I will link down in the description that I had been presented, and I say been presented because no one physically presented it to me. It literally presented itself, and that's why I say, like, my angels, my spirit team was working in my favor on that, because I was ready. You know, I was fed up. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why my life isn't how I picture it to be. And the whole time is because I had this victim mentality. You can't move forward to a successful life with a victim mentality. Okay, so my suggestion number one is to get in the right headspace. Get yourself mentally prepared to move out of this victim mentality to a more responsible mentality, a mentality where you're ready to take on the responsibility of your life. Okay, and that involves you being a parent to yourself, you letting yourself know, like, no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing, and you know that, so do something better. And that's that. By you reparenting yourself, that's you being the disciplinary in your life that your parents should have been or would have been. So yeah, my suggestion number one is to get in the right headspace mentally. And the way to do that is to, like I said, I'm going to have those links in the description, but find information that backs up this mental process. Like a lot of videos, like I've watched Oprah motivational videos, I've watched YouTuber S.Ali Myers, and he talks about, you know, the fact that we choose our parents, and that is such a good video. Definitely go watch that. And there were a few other videos. I would suggest watching Bruce Lipton and how he talks about reprogramming the mind. And those three things that I mentioned in itself is just the kickstart that will pretty much shift your perception. Like, oh, that makes sense. Like, we chose our parents in order for us to learn something. And it's also important, my suggestion number two is to understand and let go of the expectations that you had for your parents. Okay, a lot of us are very, very upset with our parents because they didn't live up to our expectations of what a parent is supposed to be. Like, we already had it in our mind. Somehow we already had it in our mind that we, you know, of how we wanted our parents to be or what we wanted our parents to be. We had these expectations. So my suggestion number two is to understand and let go of those expectations. Okay, because when you have expectations for people, you will always be disappointed. Okay, because everybody is on their own journey. It doesn't matter their title. Okay, when you give something a title, you automatically tag an expectation to it of how you want it to be. When you hear mother, you automatically think nurturing, kind, gentle, compassion. You don't imagine a drug addict, an alcoholic. Those words don't even match the expectation you have attached to mother, right? So when you get that in a parent, you don't know how to process it. You're just automatically thinking that something's wrong with them. This is not how your life is supposed to be. Everything is wrong. But that's a victim thinking. You know, like I do have another video on that as well, so check it out. It's my interpretation of you choosing your parents, which stemmed from the video that I was talking about with S.Ali Myers. And so definitely check that out. That will be up here and also in the description box. So yeah, I lost my train of thought with saying that, but yeah, so we have all these expectations, and when it doesn't happen, we become disappointed, and oh my gosh, like our life is the worst because our mother didn't live up, or our father didn't live up to our expectations, and we become disappointed. And it was I began to understand, and it was also I was watching this Will Smith, not Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, her Red Table Talk. She did a series on forgiveness, and that was very eye-opening as well. And like I said, information and videos and things like that, they don't present themselves to you for no reason, or at the wrong time. Okay? It's all for a reason. There are no coincidences, and everything does happen according to, this masterful time. And, well, so all of this was leading me to where I needed to be in the form of, getting to do what I needed to do. But yes, so like I was saying, yeah, so this information presented itself to me, and so I got into pretty much started to take responsibility for my life, and started forgiving myself for, which is my suggestion number 3. I started forgiving myself. So forgive yourself. That's where it starts. You forgive yourself for your childhood, and you forgive yourself for the pains that you felt throughout your childhood, because when you do that, you are releasing the guilt, and you are letting go of the shame and the embarrassment, and all of that, because it's important to understand that, first of all, that you chose it, for a greater reason. And second of all, you shouldn't hate or despise or feel guilty about the experiences that shaped you, because it's what made you, helped shape you how you are today, and you can't go back and change it, but you can learn from it. And so I started thinking, like, what did I learn from that situation? What did I learn from having parents like that? And my parents were good examples of how I didn't want to be. And so I followed through with that thought, with that knowing that I didn't want to follow the example that they were giving me. I didn't want my life to be like that. I didn't want to end up an alcoholic. So I don't drink. I mean, I do drink, but I don't drink. Maybe I'll drink, on a special occasion, like when my brother gets out, I'm gonna take a couple of shots, but I'm not a drinker, and you know what I'm saying, like I don't drink. Okay. And like my mother, she smokes cigarettes. I've never smoked a cigarette because I wanted for a long time for her to stop smoking cigarettes, and she still smokes, but it's something that I still want for her, but I can't make her do that. She has to want to do it on her own. So no, you can't change people. They have to want to change. And so that would be my next suggestion. Like, you can't change your parents. So my next suggestion is to understand that you can't change your parents, and you can't change your past, and nothing happened because of you. Like, if your parents were together and then they weren't together anymore, that's because they grew out of each other, okay? That's because they realized that they weren't for each other, okay? None of that happened because of you, okay? Everybody is on their own journey. Everybody has their own trauma to deal with, to heal from. Everybody has their own path that they have to, follow. And sometimes people come, that's new people, and sometimes they stay with you and teach you, and sometimes they shake up your world, okay? But it's all to teach you or, you know, it's either to teach you, or either, yes, it's going to teach you, or it's going to leave you with something, okay? It's either going to leave you with a lesson or a blessing, okay? And either one, if it leaves you with a lesson, that's still a blessing. And if it leaves you with a blessing, that's a blessing, of course. And so, yeah. And it was these steps. Like, there was moments where I cut my parents off, and then I started talking back to them again, because I felt like I had the wrong understanding of what it means to forgive. And I know I was just giving out like suggestion number 1, suggestion number 2, but I'm just gonna kind of like free talk and then edit it how I end with the suggestions. But so for a long time, like I had the idea that forgiveness meant that I would still need to have that communication with them and that contact with them because I forgave them. So to me, that meant forgiving and, you know, starting over with them. But even though I was changing and I was forgiving them, they weren't. And, you know, the same thing kept happening before. Like, I cut them off and I, you know, worked on me a little bit, and then I tried to give them another chance, and every time, you know, they let me down. And it's because they're on a journey of their own, and right now I am past where they are. So, you know, we're not really on the same wavelengths anymore, and we never were. But as an adult, you know, and as being someone who is taking their life into their own hands, I won't allow myself to engage with them, because I don't want to have to lower my vibration, and I don't want to step into a low vibrational state. But I don't wish them any harm, and I just still carry that love in my heart for them. And I still always hope that at some point that they, you know, get it together. And for them, not even for me, not even for my sake. I used to want them to at least do good, because, you know, you got kids, so why not? But no, I want them to be the best version of themselves for themselves, and I always hope that one day they will be ready. So how I forgave them is, once I stopped trying to force me into their life, or, you know, try to force them into my life, because it wasn't working. No matter how much I tried, like, it wasn't working. So I stopped doing that, and it was kind of like I was being resistant to that change, that the change of them being out my life, because it's, you know, like, everybody wants to have good parents, you know, parents that live up to some expectations, you know, at least they support me, you know, or, you know, at least they're nice and gentle. You know, I didn't have any of those categories, you know, so it was hard, because I always wanted that. And, you know, I was in and out of relationships with people, and relationships, you know, because I wanted that affection and attention that I didn't have as a child, that I didn't get as much of. I wanted it, and I wanted other people to give it to me, and I thought that would make me feel better, but it didn't. And I wasn't sure why. And it's because I wasn't at the time giving it to myself. I wasn't giving myself forgiveness. I wasn't giving myself love and attention. I wasn't nurturing myself. I wasn't even parenting myself how I would have wanted a parent to parent me. I wasn't doing anything besides pointing out what they were doing wrong, and pointing out what myself was doing wrong. And I was just beating myself up, and I was beating everybody else up verbally and stuff like that, and it wasn't working. And it wasn't making me feel good. Even though, like, the blame wasn't on me, it still wasn't making me feel good. Because it's like, okay, if it's their fault, what can they do to fix it? And they're not going to fix it, so what am I left to do? Just sulk and feel like this? And they're fine? So I didn't want to feel like that no more. And all this information started presenting itself to me. And I started applying action. Yep. I started, like the action that I took, I started just, I wrote down how they made me feel and how hopeless and little they made me feel. And then I told myself that I wouldn't allow people or myself to feel that way again. And whenever I feel that way, I make sure I give myself the proper attention that I need so that I don't feel like that no more. I vibrate higher. And so, I mean, what I'm saying, I know some may sound like so simple and easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. But it's worth it, and it is effective. Because people tell you, like your family is all you have, and you have this loyalty to them, naturally, because people tell you like, oh, your mom's a POS. Oh, your mom's mean, or she mistreats you and she abuses you. Well, that's still your mother. That's still your mother. You still gotta love her. And that's what they tell you. But that's not true. Yes, she is your mother, and yes, he is your father, but you don't owe them any loyalty. Okay? If they are not matching your high vibration or not giving you the things, the energy that you need, the type of energy that you need that's, positive, if you don't agree with them or if nothing is matching, okay, then no, you don't have to be in their life, and no, you don't have to allow them to be in your child's life or in your life or anything like that. You don't have to. So I'm saying that because I had gotten pressured to, at one point I had felt pressured to, because people made me feel bad, like, like, oh, well, my mother's passed on and I really wish I had that in my life, and like that. And it's like, it really made me feel bad. So I kept trying to force myself into this relationship with my parents, and I would try to force my kids, onto them, and it wasn't working. It was adding so much chaos and so much conflict, and I didn't want that for myself, and I didn't want that for my kids, and so I just stopped it. I took control of my life, and I stopped it. Okay? And that's what's important. Like, you are responsible for your life, and when you are responsible for your life, you have to be responsible enough to say, no, I don't want this negative energy around me. Yes, I will take this positive opportunity, this positive direction toward change. You have to be the person to have the final say. And when I was finally ready, then it became easy to not care about what my parents did or didn't do or did and didn't give me. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the hero. I was the person who overcame that. I was the person who, despite being the black sheep of her family, I am here right now. I have a beautiful family. I give them the love and the attention that they need. Like, my relationships are flourishing. I am happier. I am healthier. My back pain is pretty much gone. It's manageable. And a lot of positive changes happened when I allowed myself to forgive, when I allowed myself to heal, when I allowed myself to listen with my heart and let go of the pain and let go of the pain and let go of the frustration of trying to change and the feeling like I'm not enough to change people and all of that. Like, I let that go. And like I said, like, when you become sick and tired and fed up, that becomes your motivation to strive for better, to strive to do better. And so those were some of the things that I did. I just pretty much like got into the headspace and got into the right headspace, and I was able to forgive myself, forgive them, and I can actually, and then what I did was I told people to stop telling me about that negative drama that I didn't no longer want to be attached to. And when you say that, and when you say that, when you tell people that you don't want to be contacted about that person's drama, and people aren't listening to you, then they also need to go, because they are a part of the problem. Okay? And so it's important to remember that, because it's not you being mean, it's just you doing things for your own health, for your own well-being. And those are some things that worked for me, and I had to work through a lot, because there was so much that I blamed them for, so much that I felt like I had been robbed and cheated of. Like, I felt like I had been robbed and cheated of a life, that I thought was for me, and instead I got this chaotic life that was just struggles and pain. And now I don't look at it like as a victim. I look at it as an accomplishment. Like, my life was set up this way so that now I can help people in similar situations like you, Tanya. So I really am thankful and grateful that you had asked this question, because it allowed me to really reflect on like where I come from, because like I said, I come from a self-destructive background because of how I grew up, and I am no longer like that. And when people ask me certain questions like this one, I am really happy to share, because it was hard, but once I was ready, it was easy. And even though the first steps were like I don't, I feel so bad, but once you actually do it, you will feel so satisfied with yourself. Like, that's how you know that you're making the right decision, when you take the action on it and you're not guilty about it. Like, I don't feel guilty that I cut my parents off, because it was necessary and it was the right thing for me to do. So some people don't have to cut their parents off. Some people, their parents actually work on progress. My parents aren't there yet. They might not ever get there, and that's not on me though. I learned that their decisions, the choices that they make, and anybody else's, are not on you. Okay? Unless, but this is not talking about if you need to apologize, say apology. But for the longest, I expected my parents to at least give me an apology. Like, I felt like they at least owed me that. And whenever it didn't come, because it never came, it still hasn't come, I would get discouraged and I would get highly upset, because it's like, how dare you not give me an apology? You were awful growing up, and still is. I deserve an apology. And now I'm just like, I'm okay with or without the apology. And so I hope this Mirror Talk segment was an eye-opener for you and anybody else watching or had a similar question. It may be hard at first to take the first step into taking your life into your own hands, but it is so worth it, and it's so necessary. Being on this journey to forgiveness, being on this spirituality journey, being on any journey, especially even in health, you start forgiving yourself and start forgiving those emotions, and you no longer feel guilty. You'll notice that a lot of your health issues and a lot of your mental issues go away. So comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next time. Thank you, Tanya, for this question. It was a beautiful question, and I hope that I was able to shed some light and answer it in the best way possible. So, sending love.